Welcome, modern day mystics, fellow truth seekers, James and Justin back again, and we are continuing this popular series on the army of Satan. We have now reached episode 9. Moving on up, keeps on going. You know, it's funny when we first started recording these. After the first, we were like, "Whoo, doggy," you know, because we say sometimes some little bit of controversial stuff, and we were like, "Who knows if this is gonna work?" But it has worked and it keeps going, so now it's become something that I kind of look forward to. I'm like, all right, this is awesome. You guys can tolerate some of my obscure opinions, and I appreciate that. So hopefully we do something entertaining here. Yeah. All right. Well, we won't keep you waiting. Let's dive on in.
واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر فيتعلمون منهما ما يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه وما هم بضارين به من أحد إلا بإذن الله ويتعلمون ما يضرهم ولا ينفع.
Okay, we gotta stop it and mention the fact that that's a scene from Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah. What are the chances? Right when I came, of that? I didn't know this was coming. I came over today and said, I just watched Eyes Wide Shut. Isn't that crazy? And I even made a little piece of artwork based on Eyes Wide Shut. Oh my gosh. That's synchronicity for you. Oh yeah. I don't know if that's what that is. I know. Just had to point that out. We're talking literally about this movie, and we had no idea. It's good to point out a good synchronicity. Yeah. Interesting. Significant event going on here, maybe.
وَلَقَدْ عَلِمُوا لَمَنِ اشْتَرَاهُ مَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ وَلَبِئْسَ مَا شَرَوْا بِهِ أَنفُسَهُمْ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ.
How ancient is Babylon? It is said to be the most ancient city. There was no city before the city of Babylon to that level. The first real civilization was Babylon. So we are going back pre-Ibrahim. We're going back to the earliest of times, way before Musa, way before Sulaiman. So Allah is telling us, when did magic begin? This is the story. Allah is telling us the origins. What is sihr? وَمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَى الْمَلَكَيْنِ بِبَابِلَ هَارُوتَ وَمَارُوتَ. Allah sent down 2 angels with the knowledge of how to control or access the jinn, which is magic. And the angels were sent to the city of Babylon, and the angels were allowed to teach anybody who wanted to study with them the quote-unquote art of magic. But the angels also came with a big disclaimer, and that disclaimer was إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. The angels said to anybody who came to them, we are a test from Allah, so do not commit kufr by studying with us. Yet if somebody insisted, they taught him. Is that clear? So the angels are a test, and they say they're a test, and they only teach somebody after they tell them, if you study this, you will become a kafir. But they were still there. So Allah says, فَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مِنْهُمَا. The people studied from the two of them. مَا يُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَزَوْجِهِ. That which would cause a husband and wife to fall apart, to have problems and whatnot. And وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. They could never harm anybody unless Allah willed it. Magic is not more powerful than Allah. If Allah wants to, He can prevent it. So they're not going to harm anybody except if Allah has willed it. And وَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُم. They studied that which only harms them and there is no benefit. So magic has zero benefit. It's only evil. And وَلَقَدْ عَلِمُوا. And the angels taught or told the men, لَمَنِ اشْتَرَاهُ. Whoever got this knowledge from them, مَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ. They would have no share of the next world. You can literally purchase this world at the expense of the next. وَلَبِئْسَ مَا شَرَوْا بِهِ أَنفُسَهُمْ. And what an evil price they sold themselves for. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. If they only understood. So therefore, what is magic? Magic is the magician. Magic is the magician getting the jinn to do his tricks. Here is where we get to the key point of magic, that sihr is a bartering, a transaction between the magician and the jinn. Sihr is a business transaction, literally. It's like you go to a shop, you give money and you purchase something, right? It's a business deal. And the magician gives something to the jinn and the jinn gives something back to the magician. And the both of them need each other, but the more powerful of the two is the jinn and not the magician. There is one hadith that is very fascinating, and it is an authentic hadith. Our Prophet ﷺ said, Al-jinnu thalatha. Jinns are of three types.
One type, لهم أجنحة يطيرون في الهواء. One type, they have wings and they fly and they roam around in the air.
They are flying around in the skies. They're living their lives and they're going by.
The other type, they are hayat.
There's a category of jinn that typically appears in the form of animals. And two animals in particular the jinns love to appear in. But sometimes there are other animals. And the two main animals that the jinns love to appear in are snakes and dogs. But this does not mean that they never appear in another form. They could have other forms as well. The third type of jinn is they come and they go. This is the one that seems to want to irritate us, want to frighten us, want to come into our lives.
First of all, the question comes, are these three types the only three types of jinn? Some of the scholars say that the Quran and the Sunnah mention more than these. So these are an example of three types of jinn. So notice one flies through the air. The implication is that one flies through the air and the other one doesn't fly through the air.
Some of them are good and some of them are bad. The good jinns are called jinns and the bad jinns are called shayateen.
The jinn are all different. They have different abilities, different characteristics. They do different things. They like different things. They dislike different things.
And there are different categories of shayateen. There's a shaitan, al-marid, and there's the afrit. As there's criminals, let us say, some of them are oppressors, some of them are transgressors, some of them are disbelievers. Also the shayateen, there are ranks, depending on their disbelief, depending on their power. And every type of them have different ability and different strength. Just like you, my dear brothers and sisters. Some of you can lift 20 kilos, and some of you can lift 200 kilos.
Thoughts? Why do you think within the Abrahamic religions magic is such a no-no? Probably the root of the sin of it
from my own perspective, I don't know what like the right answer is, but it's like maybe it's because it has something to do with selfishness. Really, it's skirting God's will for your own will. You know, manifesting what you want to have happen, separate from God's overarching sovereign will.
Yeah. And this video seems to be pointing out that in order to kind of get what someone might consider a benefit from magic, they have to tap into some demonic entity in order to, you know, make that happen. And I remember growing up...
it's a union with evil by this account.
I remember growing up and knowing, you know, some people that were kind of into this stuff. And I had like a bias in my head about them, like what I thought, just because of what my faith was teaching me. But as I got to know these people later on in life and my beliefs started to, you know, change and evolve, I knew that a lot of these people, you know, I'm yet to even meet a person who is into like the dark arts. All of their magic, any of these people that I knew, whether witches or people who practice any type of magic, they wanted good to happen from it. They were into like white magic type of stuff, right?
I knew one person that was into dark stuff when I
Yeah.
was very young, and he said something like, and I don't know, there's an element to this where sometimes it can get, the lines can get blurred and it can get bullshitty at times.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I did hear at one point somebody say, we did a ritual, and the person we did it to, they were like, the next week they were like down. Like something happened to them that
Yeah.
knocked them down a peg. That's the sense I got anyway.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of that time period growing up, you know, in our church, in our religion, there would be things that would be said would be like, you know, there's covens, there's witches' covens in the area, and they pray for people at our church by name.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was one
yeah.
thing that, just in case that's like an urban legend type thing,
Yeah.
that other churches that you hear that was,
Yeah.
we also heard something like that. And one thing I noticed was the focus on the enemy that keeps happening over and over again. You know, depending, you know, it's interesting. Two people could believe the same religion and highlight different aspects of that religion.
Yeah.
Like there's versions of Christianity where they fixate on Jesus's transmutation and they fixate on the peace and joy of God.
Yeah.
And then there's other sects of that religion that focus on the crucifixion and
Yeah.
make art of like Richter Jesus, you know, naked, and you know,
Yeah.
like they focus on that suffering and the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And one thing that I notice is sometimes people focus on the enemy, and I'm not saying anything necessarily against it. I'm just saying that's an approach. It's weighed against the part of it where God gives you peace that passes all understanding, and God present you gifts and heaven ultimately and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's weighed against this focus on the enemy, on the scary things that you got to watch out for.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful with that, because you got to be careful not to be led into a place where essentially what you're doing is creating systems to reinforce what you already believe and demonize what's different from you. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a warning there. You don't want to just be creating systems to like fixate you from being wavering. That's can be,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that can be a witchcraft of its own. Like you put a spell on yourself
Yeah.
to color the world in a certain way. Well, that guy's an agent of the devil. How do I know? Because he does this.
Yeah.
So that's bad and I'm good, and that'll keep me, that justifies my own actions.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, and it's.
I told you we
interesting-
take some risks in some of the comments here.
It's interesting that you bring up systems, right? Because what breaks down a good system? An alternate belief, an alternate, like if say food comes from one place, one source, right? And it's tried, trusted, and true. We can't have people going off trying to find other places. Just keep with the system, because this is what keeps the system running. This is what keeps everyone fed. So if you go off and you start looking in other avenues, you might cause the system to collapse. So for some reason, that's kind of what I was thinking about.
I also feel like saying, do you trust Allah? Do you trust him? Do you trust him? Because there are probably people that are practitioners of evil magic.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? But again, me and you, I don't want to
Yeah.
lopside this thing. They've met people that are like, they care about good things. They care about tolerance and unity and everyone kind of having their needs met, and they're sort of magical. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to like be angry at somebody like that. And I know that somebody out there is thinking, well, they're unknowingly in league with the devil because
Yeah.
all magic's bad. But just hear me out for a second. There are probably people that are absolutely nefarious and, you know, create rituals meant to like mess with you, and they're your enemy.
Yeah.
But if you trust Allah, if you trust God, it's like, will he not see there? Does it not become one of those things? What's that term? Like hating someone or not forgiving someone or seeking revenge on someone is like buying poison to get your enemy and drinking it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, is there not a version of it where it turns on itself? Even if they inhibit you, even if they create an effective roadblock that messes with you, like say you're in a bit of a business competition and somebody Machiavellianly creates a scheme to like screw you over. They even sprinkle in like confetti, a little bit of evil magic towards you, and your business loses and theirs succeeds. Do you even want a part of that world? Not talking to people that are literally like their life depends on it.
Yeah.
Talking about if you open your mind a little bit and you actually can trust God, then you're like, well, then it's a curse to that person. Because now you got to like be a sorcerer.
Because does God not have your best interest at heart?
Right. Does
Not
he or
God
do-
not going to take
well,
care of
does
you?
he or does he not? It just presents a question.
Yeah.
Does he or does he not? And I know that sometimes the bottom line, like the final word is like, look, yeah. The bottom line is it's a warning from God's book. Watch out for this stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
Enough said. Fine. Everyone got the right to think what they want. But while I have the mic, I just thought I'd mention some of those things. You know, in case the door was creeping over to like a higher form of maybe. Sorry, that's a little condescending. Sorry, a different way of looking at it. It's an invitation.
Oh, yeah. And if I've learned anything from the comments sections is that not everyone believes the same thing.
Of course not.
Even within the same, like, ballpark. Like, we get people from the Muslim faith that they have differing opinions on these issues that we're talking about right here. And I think it's healthy to, you know, at least be able to hear another perspective from someone that's coming up and saying, hey, you know, what about this side of it? Like what we've already done here.
But
But
some of the greatest commandments involve loving of other people. And if you think about it, what is a martyr? What is like a saintly martyr? Sometimes they all go all the way down, still like, forgive them. Forgive all these people, you know, meanwhile they're being like persecuted for their faith. There's something graceful about that. You're not tied up in the drama of the dark arts. It's I understand to those that are, you know, inclined to foolishness, they might need a warning there. But honestly, I'm not so frail that I couldn't be in the presence of whatever you think. And if you have to kill me because of my enlightenment and my peace, then guess what? I'll be Stephen getting stoned by the people and like Jesus standing up and, you know, approving. That's what a martyr is. You're friggin' above it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's what I am. I'm not trying to get egoic about it. I'm just trying to say that lest we reduce ourselves to guerrilla warfare. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this. Aren't we ascending upwards?
Yeah.
Aren't we ascending towards understanding? God knows every little tiny bit of all this already. We're the ones that are ignorant. God made this thing knowing they're going to practice magic.
Yeah.
So what the heck? What is it, our duty to clean up that mess? Yeah. Maybe. Maybe it is. I'm just, who knows? What's the most graceful way?
Let's continue on.
Some of you are intelligent and some of you are not as intelligent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the jinn say, وَمِنَّا الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنَّا دُونَ ذَلِكَ. Some of us are righteous and some of us are not. وَكُنَّا طَرَائِقَ قِدَدًا. And many of us have different ways and different ideologies and different thinking. Some of them, the jinns, are Muslims. Some of them are disbelievers. Some of them are Jews, Christians, Buddhists, atheists, monks, everything. The same as human beings.
The jinn have a very unique power, which is truly bizarre, and physicists who are Muslims should really marvel at this, and that is the power to transform matter into energy and back into matter again. And that's something that we are trying to figure out how to do. E equals mc squared. Energy and matter are related, we know this. And the jinn have the power to do this. How do we know this? The throne. The throne of Bilqis, or the queen of Sheba. The throne that from Yemen to Jerusalem. قال عفريت من الجن. Now, jinns, we talked about this in the last class, there are many levels, and ifrit are the most evil and the most powerful. Ifrit are what Western literature calls demons of the jinn. These are the worst of the worst. So the ifrit said, I can bring you the throne before you even stand up. Which makes total sense, physically speaking, from physics, I mean. So we need to put things into perspective, that the jinns are not all of them so powerful. The fact that one only said that he can do this clearly shows what? That the rest are not qualified to do it. And it is well known that this throne is going to be inside the palace, that if he were to take the throne, it would not be flying in the air, people are not going to see it flying, rather it would disappear there and appear in front of Suleiman, which means what? Somehow the jinn have the power to take matter, transform it to energy, take it all the way back and then reproduce it. And by the way, this is something that is well known, mutawatir, from the stories of what's happening and whatnot, that it is possible for a magician to just produce an item that was lost, literally, and he goes, here it is, right? Or looking into crystal balls and whatnot that we see, that you see things in there, and these are the jinns that you see playing around and whatnot. You know, so all of this, it is possible, and we know this from our own experiences in humanity. Whatever the jinn does is something we now understand is physical and natural for the jinn. For the jinn, not for us, for the jinn.
I don't know, I was just reading the screen there and was like, so the jinns are invisible creatures, but they're able to make themselves appear in other forms like animals and humans. And I'm just, speaking my mind here. I feel like that can become a dangerous thing by, because depending on who's saying something, you get someone with a lot of clout who points in a direction and says that person has a demon in them, that person's evil. Now all of a sudden all these people believe him because they trust that person.
Remember the witch trials of Salem? Yeah. It was literally the witch trials, and humanity had to be like, yikes, whoops, guess we shouldn't have been calling everybody witches. It gets out of hand.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a caution here.
Right, but either it's real or it isn't, Like sometimes I like to parallel things to the Matrix. Remember how in the Matrix, if you weren't awake, if you didn't exit the Matrix, you were like a potential agent because they could possess you. They could like take over your body, and unless you seem to be one of the people that were outside of it. So it's like, if you don't believe in Allah, you're just a sitting duck waiting to be possessed by some demon.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's the thinking, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot of danger there. It's like, well, what the heck, man? If you're thinking people are potentially devils, you might not be apt to listen to them when they're just being sensible. For some reason, this thing was reminding me of Sherlock Holmes, and I really, it was kind of irritating at the time, but ultimately pleasing that in that movie, he was relentless. No matter how bad the evidence stacked up that his enemy was supernatural, he was like, he's not fucking he's not supernatural, excuse my language. And then in the end, of course, he was right. But to prove that he was right, he had to like do a ritual. He had to like carve a pentagram into the carpet and like drink some substance, and then he came out of it and he was like, we'll have to discuss that later. I did discover some things, but essentially what I did was I solved this case and the guy's not real magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it may take finding real magic to decide what's real magic and what's not. You might be surprised at the results.
Yeah.
But essentially,
what do they say about magic in the first place? That it's just stuff we have, like, it's usually stuff that someone knows that no one else has figured out yet.
It just hasn't been scientifically broke down yet.
Yeah.
Not to discredit anything because who knows? For now, we see through a glass darkly.
Yeah. But that also like leads me into another loophole in that is that will we ever be able to fully understand everything and everything? Right. So that maybe makes it so magic actually does exist and is always here.
Right. Well, if your knee-jerk reaction is to just rely on the scriptures, guess what? You're one of the people that just happen to be worthy. And if you're questioning, you're not worthy anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. We're allowed to get some meta perspective here. And just be like, wait a sec. Let me pull a Sherlock and try to like, just be a little more, what is it called? Discerning.
Yeah.
Discerning about things.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. We're going off on a lot of tangents.
That's okay. Let's continue on.
Thank you for your patience.
we understand then what sihr is, and that's the jinn doing its tricks. The question therefore is, why would the jinn do it? The jinn doesn't need your American Express, doesn't need your cash, doesn't need your credit. What does the jinn need? Doesn't even need your food. What does it need?
The magician cannot practice magic without committing shirk, without committing disbelief, without becoming one of the strongest and most evil disbelievers of the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will tell you the story of a magician who repented. He repented and he told the story of how he came into practicing magic. He said, I had a teacher who was a magician, and the teacher showed me all of his power and all of his strength and all of his might, and I desired to learn the magic that he learned. He said, I went to a faraway cave in the darkness, and he said, I stayed there for many, many days without any light, without any fire, without any warmth. He said, I sat in a circle, and this circle is where I used to use the toilet, and it is where I used to sleep. He used to sit in his own filth for day after day after day. When he had sat in his own filth, and when he had reached the state of absolute filth and absolute complete and utter impurity, then the shayateen began to come to him and they began to instruct him what to do. And they taught him some things, and he said, I want more and I want more. They said, no, this is not enough. They said, we will not accept to teach you any more until you go and you commit zina. But not any kind of zina. You go and you commit zina with a mahram. You go and you commit zina with a mahram, with your mother, with your sister, with your aunt, and then we will teach you some more. And subhanallah, like this, the person went on and on and on. He was...
Let's talk about porn.
Okay, jeez, wow.
Well, then let's just get real here for a sec. There's a lot of porn out there that's like stepsister, stepmom, brother, sister, blah, 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 blah. Seems like there's an awful lot of incest in the heart of men. Yeah. And I'm thinking about this ritual where you do it and it's like, like how many monastic monks and whatever end up finding, when these guys have made like vows of celibacy, they go in there and they find like perversion, like crazy out of control perversion.
Yeah.
Something about the act of like suppressing, and then all of a sudden you're getting high off your own shit fumes for 3 days, and then like the demons that were already dormant in there are like, we want you to go have sex with this person that you've probably got an Oedipal complex regarding anyway.
Yeah.
And go do that. Like I know I'm diluting the friggin' message of what's being said here. And I just wanted to, just so you don't think I'm discounting this whole thing. I've known people that have repented too, that were into witchcraft before they became saved. And there's a marked difference, and they have similar stories. Like somebody walked into their midst, and after they became a Christian, a witchcraft practitioner was like, I've seen what the Lord of Darkness can do, and he would. This is what you guys are doing is laughable. Yeah. And I know people that have repented from witchcraft, more than one, and they talk about the staunch difference between like that you're dealing with evil.
Well, this reminded me of when we did the reaction from the Christian guy who had left the New Age movement. If you look online, there are truckloads of videos of people who have left the dark arts to return to a more conservative base, whether it's Christianity or Islam. There are truckloads of testimonies of people who were in there, and who knows what they were doing and why. Who am I to judge? I think if they found the right path, they couldn't do that and they feel more secure, they feel better doing what they're doing, have at her. But yeah, like you said, there's tons of testimony out there about transferring, changing, and moving away from this. Me personally, man, I've had zero attraction to the dark arts, but I would admit that I have an interest in the white arts, or the happy, healing, healthy, like wanting good things to happen.
Right.
If there's something there, something within the ritual, something within these magical practices that can bring about something good, I want to be open-minded to the possibility that that's something that actually exists
Right. You're inclined to go towards a positive. I guess the thing I'm trying to, like, it's such a bizarre request for that demon to be like, I want you to go commit, what's the word? What was the actual word that means incest?
I forget.
It's such a bizarre request, and on the face of it, it's just, of course, it's funky darkness. It's funky evil, you know?
Yeah.
Why would that be the thing? Ew, it's so reprehensible and evil and repugnant.
Yeah.
But look at all the stuff that resides in the heart of man, you know, under the surface, buried under all kinds of good intentions and facades of purity.
Yeah.
You know, if you study Carl Jung, there's a whole stage of your life that you should probably dedicate towards like reconciling your dark side that you've been suppressing this whole time.
Yeah.
It's not obvious that simply suppressing all those societally deemed bad behaviors. By the way, I'm not defending incest, for Pete's sake. I'm a little worried here that this is going to get sidetracked into Justin secretly a creep mode. I'm just saying that I think a lot of things exist in many people that's not talked about because it's probably a detriment to society to engage in. But nevertheless, projecting it outward instead of owning the fact that some of these things reside in your own heart.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not, geez Louise, I'm not accusing anyone of the normal thing being that everybody's secretly incestuous. I mean, that might be something Freud was trying to say, like every man secretly wants to sleep with their mom. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have even met people that divulged information about that. Like, man, I have bizarre dreams. I slept with my mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The psyche is a weird and wild place.
Yeah.
And when you are in a different state of being, sometimes because you took some drugs or sometimes because you've been starving yourself and huffing in fecal fumes, you know, and then are you sure it's some satanic force? Are you sure it's not like some part of yourself even that you've been suppressing?
Yeah.
Or ignoring and pretending wasn't there?
Yeah.
There's therapy. There's like therapy you can do.
Or
to
what's
work
that
it
term
out.
you use, like turkey basting yourself in like the darkness? Of course, maybe after like days of like, you know, sitting in darkness and just consuming darkness and only awfulness that, you know, maybe some, you know, terrible things might happen up here. You know? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
All right, let's continue.
Made to disgrace the Quran. He was made to, you know, like some of them, they put the Quran under their shoes. A person becomes a magician by reaching the highest level of kufr that he will almost never return back from, and then he can progress. And you should not be fooled in this by a person's apparent piety. Many of these people have been caught praying in the masjid, but they pray without wudu, for example. Or they've been caught, you know, with their tasbih or whatever they have, or they've been caught with the Quran open in front of them, but when they looked, the back pages of the Quran were all blank, or the names of the shaitan were written on the following pages, but he opens it up for you at the page which is the Quran and says, I'm a holy person, or I'm a sheikh or a peer or whatever it may be. And subhanallah, these people, the reality of them is what I described. This is the nature of the magician. No matter what you find from them, no matter what you open from them, you will find in it that there is some form of disbelief towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll find Ayatul Kursi, except just in the middle, it will say, Ya Shaitan, Ya so-and-so, Ya so-and-so, help me, Ya so-and-so, help me. Or just in the corner, it's written, Ya Muhammad, Ya Ali, Ya so-and-so, Ya so-and-so, seeking help from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or you will find that they write certain words backwards, or certain things are misspelled, or there are characters around. What are these characters that we find? Ayn, 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 Jim, Jim, Jim. What are these things? Each one has a meaning. Each one has an intention. Each one is an act of seeking help from the jinn. This ayn is narrated by many people as being a method of calling upon the kings of the jinn and seeking help from the kings of the jinn. Don't think because you find a taweez that has Qul huwallahu ahad and above it just has ayn. Don't think that this is something that is innocent. Charms and amulets are completely forbidden in Islam. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Jabir, cut it off, because if you don't cut it off, you will never be successful. We need to divide ta'weez or taweez into two types. That which is purely from the Quran and that which is from anything other than the Quran. As for that which is purely from the Quran, it is haram without a shadow of a doubt, but it does not take a person outside of Islam. It's a very big sin, it's haram, it's a bid'ah that has no basis in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, but it does not take a person outside of Islam. That's because the Quran is the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal and a sifa from His sifat, an attribute from His attributes, and so it is not, you cannot commit shirk by seeking help from the Quran. However, it is definitely a bid'ah to write the Quran and to tie it around your neck, and it was strongly, strongly hated by the companions of Ibn Mas'ud, nor was it reported from any of the Sahaba that they did this. As for something which contains other than the Quran, if a person believes that that charm itself is a cause of benefit, then they have committed disbelief and they are from the people of the hellfire. If a person believes that Allah is the cause of benefit and this charm is only a method or a means to achieve benefit from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they have committed a major sin. So either way, all forms of charms and amulets, all forms of things that are tied around the wrist are haram. And I warn people, wallahi I warn you, against these people who say it is only Quran. I have opened, I don't know how many taweez I've opened, probably, I don't think I'm lying if I say hundreds, if not perhaps even more than 1,000 taweez. And I have only so far, I've kept a running count of 3 that have been only from the Quran. And almost half of them that I've ever been given, the person has said to me, wallahi, 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 this is from the Quran. My shaykh swore to me by Allah, this is just Quran. It's just Ayatul Kursi. Look, it's nothing. And we open it up. Oh shaitan, help me. Oh shaitan, help me. Or Ayatul Kursi written and spelt wrong. Or things written and stars and Ain and Jim and Ya Fulan written all over it. And these are the people who say it is only from the Quran. And I usually say to people, I open up a challenge to people. I say to them, if you believe your taweez is only from the Quran, bring it and open it in front of me. If it is from the Quran, I will give you it back and you can choose what to do with it. But how rare, 3 times out of how many hundreds I have found a taweez that was only from the Quran. And all those times, they believed the magician had cheated them. They said, subhanAllah, I told him to do something good. What is this? I could have printed out Ayatul Kursi. This is how people have acted. So subhanAllah, we know that most of these charms and these things, when they are found, they actually contain shirk. And this is something that is very important for people to realize.
All right, well, we made it through part 9 here on magic. A big part of that at the end there was about charms. And one thing that was kind of like going through my mind while this was going on was, I wonder what the effect would be if you cut out all the imagery, because most of the imagery inside of this thing was like demons and darkness and blackness and like the, you know,
with music playing in the background, creating a feeling,
very atmospheric. What would you do if you just cut out that imagery?
Or not music? Maybe that's not supposed to call it music. I don't remember.
Well, some of it felt like music there.
Sorry if I'm wrong.
But anyway, you just have the message playing, the guys talking and all that stuff, and then what you have in front of it are like, you know, people doing Reiki and people crying and hugging and having healing and all the like this, doing a tarot thing with someone who feels touched and a tear comes down their eye and they feel like they've connected with something, right. and if you just changed all that imagery, would a video like that have the same effect? Because obviously there are things out there beyond this video that go on like that whole last part there was all about like charms. What if like we find out one day that like, sleeping on moon crystals actually does do something and like...
Well, the important thing you brought up there was how something's packaged. Like I've often remarked when I'm like driving through a populated area and you pass by McDonald's and I'm like, what if you couldn't choose brightly colored things and like pictures of glistening burgers, and instead you had to, like, the same way they in our country they can only sell cigarettes, but they can't advertise it.
It's like sick people in the
right.
front.
So what if when you pass by McDonald's, it was like, this food is very bad for you.
Yeah.
You know, you come here at your own risk. It's a gray building, but
Yeah.
that's not how it's marketed, right?
Yeah.
And when you do show scary imagery, you're right. It's a different thing. Like, imagine being like, this stuff's absolute evil and darkness, and like you said, showing people like having emotional breakthroughs and healing and hugging each
Yeah.
other and giving to the poor.
Plant medicine. People being like, oh my God.
Because people do that too,
Yeah,
right?
like-
And how many things does it depend on how it's packaged, right?
Yeah.
I've seen people do it with the Bible. I've seen people be like, change the word Jesus to like some other thing, and it's like, and then blah blah blah. You know, it talks about like the blood of the lamb and covering yourself in the blood of the lamb, and it's, you know, all of a sudden it can take on a different feel if you just change a few words around.
Yeah.
Now the other side of this, not to be rude, okay? It sounds like they were cutting open these little things with spells or trinkets or whatever inside of them.
Yeah.
Consider for a moment spiral dynamics, which is a system. It's a model to describe human progression through all the different states, like the evolution of someone's
Value belief systems.
right? And it seems an awful lot like magical thinking, like magic thinking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There are some people that would be like irritated at the silliness of it. Like, how many things do I gotta apprehend and cut open? And they're just the one. Even if it says Satan help me, the bottom line is that people are looking for any means they can, even supernatural, to improve their life.
Yeah.
And by the way, is it working? You know what I mean? Like, how many of the things do you open? And you're like, guys, stop asking Satan for help. Is that same person that's doing that like finding success? Or are they? Well, that's the reason they're not. Okay, but are the people that aren't doing that finding crazy success? Like,
Yeah.
and is that not based on some political system? Yes, everybody that I know that believes the same way means find success. Do you guys scratch those back? Is it? Let's get real here for a sec. Is there a political system at work here
Yeah.
also?
Well, usually when you get into magical
You have to get
thinking,
objective.
there's like confirmation bias, and then you also, it's like you only seem to be able to see the things that reaffirm, you know,
Yes.
what you believe about it, and then you have a tendency to dismiss things that, say we invited someone had cancer and you invited a crystal healer over, and they, went around with triangles and dinged and put crystals and lit incense, and all of a sudden a week later they were healed from cancer. Like, I'm sure there are stories out there where things like that have probably happened. Right. You could, like...
Well, everything always happens elsewhere. That's
Yeah,
the other thing.
yeah.
When we were in a church, we would have missionaries show up and they'd be like, I saw a guy's leg grow back. Or something similar to that. And I've mentioned this point before. Why is it always elsewhere? Why is it never before my very eyes? The most magical stuff is elsewhere, and the monotony and silly stuff is here.
Yeah.
For us to be distracted by. Satan's probably laughing his head off. Keep cutting open those little purses with fake messages.
Well, we all have different chemistries and the way we see things, because I know people that they see everything. Like we've had guests that seen incredible things. And I'm like, I've seen nothing. I don't get to participate for some reason.
What are you talking
I was
about?
like, but I don't.
We had a big
I don't see
synchronicity just this video.
Yes, but I don't see entities. I've never seen demons. I've never seen angels. I've never seen them, and I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm just saying I haven't had the luxury of being blessed by that. But
in the progression of things, it's very right on track if you get to the point where you see things in a very materialistic sense.
Yeah.
Prior to that is probably a misguided magical way of thinking. And then above complete rationality is a return to, there actually is miracles everywhere. I've only been not seeing them. It's been my own ego preventing me from seeing the miracles. Behold, it's all a miracle. It's a more graceful state of being. Jeez Louise, there's a difference between squabbling about this stuff and squabbling about every nook and cranny where Satan might be hiding, moving past that to the point where you're like, okay, I've been burned by that. Too many things have turned out to just be humans were behind it the whole time,
Yeah.
Not saying magical things don't happen. You can still have a mystical experience before this, but the appropriate next step would be to become kind of hyper-rationalist and be like, okay, this is so much nonsense. I got to just get real before I believe something like that again. And then after that, there's a return to seeing that there is a reality to these things. But the root of so many religions, when you dig down to it, including a coven. Not a coven, but I walked into a witch store one time.
Yeah.
And to my astonishment, at the root of what these people that were seasoned practitioners was just reduce your ego. Try working on reducing your ego. It's all one thing. It all returns back to non-duality unity things.
Yeah.
The esoteric version of every religion, the secret sects of it, when it's like, I finally stormed the secret version of it, it's like, okay, Jesus the whole time was talking about the kingdom is at hand. It's within you. You know, so many times that's the nougat at the core of it. And when man gets his hands on it, when mankind gets his hands on these things, he like turns it into a legal system and, you know, a witch trial and all these different things, and paranoia. Paranoia is present. And by the way, something irritates me about somebody disseminating paranoid information and they're calm as a cucumber. If it was damn real, you wouldn't be like, okay, does everybody see this? You know, you should be afraid. I can't tell you how many demons I've had to cast out. Like, what the fuck? This is a horror movie. This is The Exorcist then. Why are you like, help me? You know, like people who are of a weaker mind, more apt to believe in magic, you know, going before that person, begging for absolution. You know, just you decide for yourself. All right, I'm not dealing with this nonsense anymore. You know what made less spooky things happen to me in my household? When I watch too many horror movies, I go, okay, now at night when I go upstairs, I hallucinate things in the corners. If I just don't prime my brain to think of demons, they're not there. Wow. You know, so don't prime yourself to be afraid. Instead, this is one you can even abide by. You don't have to listen to some corrupt infidel, but I'm just going to say this. Instead, focus on anything good, whatever is pure, whatever is holy, whatever leads you closer to basking in the eternal presence of Allah. Just focus on that instead. And don't waste your time demon hunting. You know what I mean? You might just want to actually be a hunter.
Yeah.
Like, or I'm not saying even do that. I'm just saying the first thing I said.
That's a good point.
Seek out the good.
I think we'll...
Seek what Allah has to say that's good.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we'll probably get some good comments on this one.
I'm sorry. Take it easy on me, please.
We'll leave it here. Hopefully you guys liked our reaction on this one. Let us know if you want us to keep continuing this series. If you do, hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone, till next time, stay spiritual.